This week we're taking a look at the Vanvo 120-inch portable projector screen. Welcome back to the channel, my name is Sam, and before we start I'd like to remind you all to please subscribe if you haven't already. We upload at least once or twice a week on film production, music production, photography, home cinema setups and more, so if you're interested in any of that stuff please be sure to subscribe, notifications on to stay updated on our latest videos. So today I'm actually in the conservatory, and apologies I am squinting a bit, I haven't got any light set up. I thought I'd just do it with natural light and I'm not sure if that was the best choice, but here we go, we're kind of going for it anyway. So as I said, this week we're going to be checking out the Vanvo 120-inch projector screen. This is something I've been looking at on Amazon for a while. There's been a few different options, but I've always seen quite good reviews of this one, and Vanvo's a well-known brand within the budget projector world. Now, I've been really keen on doing my own garden cinema setup for quite some time, ever since I bought the K1 a couple of months ago. And by the way, big thanks to everyone who's watched that. I think it's about to cross like 60,000 views now, which is insane. And I thought I'd continue in that vein because people seem to be quite enjoying that content. So yes, as I said, garden cinema, that's something I wanted to do for ages. I always see these pictures on Instagram and Facebook, and I was like, right, I really want to have a go at that, and I've got most of the kit set up, but I need a good screen. Now obviously you can project onto like a white wall or something, but you know, you can't always guarantee you're going to have a white wall where you want it, so I thought a proper projector screen would be a good choice. Now I could have gone and spent hundreds of pounds on one, but the whole point is to be doing things budget but still reasonably good quality. So yes, I went for this Vanvo 120-inch one. I could have gone for the 100-inch, but I thought go big or go home. 120 inches is about the maximum you can get before getting into sort of specialists, or 140, 150, and then you start getting into sort of 15, 20, 30 feet screens, and that would have been a bit ridiculous. I don't know many gardens that could actually take a screen that size. So the screen itself comes in another one of these fantastic carry cases. That seems to be a bit of a staple of a lot of these budget brands. I actually have these really good quality cases. Inside you will find the main screen made of nice sort of slightly flexible material. You also get a couple of guy ropes and a load of hooks, which came in super handy. Best place to set this up is somewhere on the lawn or somewhere you can actually tie it off, because believe me, no matter how much wind you have, you will find it wobbles around a bit. So weighting it down and using some sort of guy ropes and hooks is a really good idea. And then the rest of the bag is filled with the actual main frame. So you have two of these tripod stands. They use the kind of tent pole method of kind of folding with a cord in the middle. They're quite flexible, and actually that's really convenient because in the wind it will probably bend a bit, so having a bit of flex and give is really useful, so it's not just going to break. And then you've got these other poles here, one of which goes along the bottom, and you've got these little screws here that kind of thread through the bottom of each of the tripods to hold the bottom together. And then you've got another top frame, which is where you thread through the actual screen, and then you just velcro it onto the rest of the frame. At the moment this screen is going for £120 on Amazon. However, you can usually get a bit of a discount. I think I got it for about £99. They had sort of 10% off or so. So for the rest of the garden cinema setup, I'm going to be using my Amazon Fire TV stick, and of course my trusty Wimius K1, which is the review I did before. This thing definitely should do pretty well once it's sort of gone past dusk, and it should be pretty bright as well. We've tested it inside loads, and I'm pretty confident that it's going to work pretty well outside. It won't be as good as sort of a high-end projector, but I've seen plenty of videos and pictures of other similar budget brands looking pretty good outside. So I have high hopes for this, but obviously I'm keeping my expectations at a sensible level. And then I've also got a stand, and I'm going to be using this thing as well to actually place the projector on. But I might also try and use a lower down table and angle the projector up. I want to see what works best, because I'm trying to balance convenience with sort of the best possible viewing experience. As it's a small area, I'm just going to be using the built-in speakers to see how they handle themselves. We're going to do a proper setup at some point with a proper sound system, but for the time being I'm more interested in just seeing how it all works and seeing if my minimal setup can still feel quite premium and exciting. So without further ado, let's have a look and see how I got on with the garden cinema setup. What do you reckon, Muffin?
It's like confused. It's confused. I don't know what's going on. You're blocking my sun.
You ever looked into a hurricane and decide, maybe I should fly straight through it? 'Cause that's what's about to happen. Even when he turned 6, none of his life crisis was not banging one of those names people going for.
So I did the first sort of Garden Cinema Night test. It was kind of like a beta test almost. And yeah, it went pretty well. The film was Godzilla vs. Kong, if you couldn't tell. And yeah, the film was dumb as hell, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, the projector itself actually performed better than I expected. Now, you can see in some of the shots previously that it was sort of sunset initially, you couldn't see it too well, but as soon as the sun went down, you got to dusk, it really came into its own, and fully, you know, obviously at proper nighttime, it was actually quite bright, and I was really impressed. The sound as well actually carried surprisingly well just out of the small projector speakers. Now, obviously, if it was a big garden, lots of people, I would set up, you know, a proper sound system, but for just us in the garden here, it, you know, did pretty well. Now, the screen itself, as you can see, was good size, held itself pretty well, although we did use the guy ropes just in case, because, you know, screen falling over wouldn't be so good. And I've got to say, I was quite impressed so far. You'll see that there were some folds that we weren't able to get out. We did try to iron them, and I think if we were to, I don't know, use like a hairdryer or something, eventually they would come out. But to be honest, actually, once the screen was projected onto, and we managed to pull it pretty taut, you really couldn't see them, especially sort of, you know, when the projector was at kind of full brightness. So yeah, so far pretty impressed. What we're going to do is going to try it again tonight. Hello, Muffin. Hello. We're going to try it again tonight, but this time round, rather than having the projector against this wall, this window, we're going to have it down the bottom of the garden and see if that works better for this particular setup.
Deliberate. You gotta get fast.
Remember, 8 billion people.
Congratulations. Bottle. 2. It's gonna be a big custody battle over this one.
Okay, so we did night 2 of Sam's Garden Cinema last night, and this time we had the screen the other way round. We were sat in here looking out, which I think worked pretty well for the most part. It was quite a bit cold last night, so we were able to just be tiny bit warmer in here, although the problem was that because the doors only open a certain way, it meant that everyone had to be squished in a lot more. However, I did find a solution to that, and actually I had the projector on a table rather than higher up on a stand. So actually people could look over the projector, so it meant we could kind of move things around. So actually I do think, despite the fact that you'll lose a little bit of resolution doing keystone correction, I think it's worth doing for convenience sake and the fact that you can actually fit more people in. Now, as you'll have seen in the time lapse, we had quite a bit more challenges putting the projector screen kind of middle of the patio because we had a lot more wind, so we had to really rely on those guy ropes to kind of hold it in place. And also it was just quite difficult to find a space wide enough to actually fit the frame. We watched a film called Life featuring Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds and a whole bunch of other actors I cannot remember the names of. That was fantastic, by the way, so it's on Amazon Prime at the moment. I definitely recommend it. We actually did talk about it briefly in our latest Phasecast episode, so please do be sure to check that out. I actually found that the sound worked worked quite a lot better in here, obviously, because it was able to kind of reverberate around the room, so it kind of filled the room a bit more and actually felt like it worked even better. But I still think that the sound from the speakers worked pretty well outside, although again, if it's completely open, the sound would dissipate, because I think it had the wall back there to kind of reflect off. Now, the biggest problem with the position of the screen, and you'll probably see it from some of the footage, is the street lamp that's just out there was actually shining onto it and creating a shadow from the fence and the hedge that's just off to the right here. That was kind of annoying and distracting. We also found, again, because we kind of had to be stuffed in, when we're allowed to have more people around, it's just not really going to work. So I think for going forward, we're going to have it like we did the first night, kind of pointed this way, so against the wall just behind me, and then we're sat at the other end of the garden. I think that just works better. But yes, overall I've been really impressed with how the projectors performed, how the Fire Stick has performed, and most importantly for how that Vanvo projector screen worked. Overall, I think I would recommend it. For about £100, you can usually get a bit of money off. I think it's worth the while. The frame, while it's quite light, it's got a bit of flexibility, which is actually what you need in something like this, because again, if you get a big gust of wind, that's going to kind of blow the thing around. So having a bit of flex and give actually makes it a lot better. Now, really the only frustration I had was the fact that you couldn't quite get all the creases out. I think if I worked hard on it a bit more, I probably could kind of figure it out. But you know, as I said, once you got the film going and it's dark enough, you really don't notice the creases all that much. And in the end, you just get a good size screen, holds itself up pretty well. There's a good amount of contrast. You can actually also back project it, which I didn't show any footage of because we didn't really try that out. It wasn't really convenient to do that. One of the biggest problems with trying to do garden cinema in the UK is as soon as it's warm enough to do so, we get quite long days in the summer because we're quite a bit above the equator in the Northern Hemisphere. So in June, we don't get sunset till gone 9:30, and that's when it's usually the warmest here. So if you're going to do garden cinema in the UK, you either need to be prepared to wear a coat and have a blanket on and do it in kind of April, May time, or kind of very late summer, early autumn. But if you do want to do it in the height of summer, you're probably going to want to do it on a weekend, so you're not doing it on a work night for most people. And you're also probably going to want to do it somewhere maybe a bit further out, so you're not making too much noise, because you'll be watching the film way up, you know, up until about midnight if it's a 2.5 hour film. So be prepared for a late night if you are going to do garden cinema and do it kind of properly. But I would say if you want to be able to watch films at night, maybe a little earlier, you might want to invest in a more powerful projector. Going forward, I'm definitely planning on doing more garden cinema based videos. As I said, me and Elliot are planning on doing a proper setup. You'll have to forgive the fact that it was a bit kind of cobbled together with just using chairs that we had. Didn't have any fairy lights or anything or any kind of, you know, extra touches. But me and Elliot are planning on doing a proper garden cinema setup with a proper sound system and actually kind of decorating the garden just a little bit. But I hope this was helpful. I hope this was interesting. Again, if you're UK, US, anywhere in the world, I hope this was of interest. But specifically for UK residents, do be aware that you'll either have to be prepared to be cold or have a very late night if you want to really enjoy garden cinema like properly. Anyway, that's going to about do it for now. I hope you all enjoyed, and please again be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.